And welcome to Open Line. I'm Starlene Stringer. Many of us take pride in our homes and our city. Neighborhood associations are one way to express that pride, and they are the focus of this edition of Open Line. Viewers were invited to submit questions via email, Facebook, and Twitter, and we'll be getting those answered throughout the show. Our guests are City of Irving Community Outreach Coordinator Karen Ducote, Nichols Park Neighborhood Association President Pete Miller, Barton Estates Neighborhood Association President Johnny Jackson, and High Point Estates President Verna Wilson. Thank you all for being here.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Well, we'll start with the questions right away because there's so much to talk about today. And Karen, you're going to get the first one. And that's simply, how important are neighborhood associations here in Irving?
Neighborhood associations are very important because, number one, they build a sense of community amongst the residents. It helps to build that core of volunteers to help beautify and strengthen our communities, and also helps to provide a voice from the neighborhoods to City Hall so that we can understand and address concerns of our neighbors.
Okay, and how many are there?
We have over 60 registered neighborhood associations in the City of Irving.
Wow, that's a lot, definitely a lot. Pete, why did you get involved in your association?
Our association started actually kind of as a crime watch, and people that were concerned about crime in the neighborhood wanted to make sure that we would band together and help mitigate some of that activity going on, look for some things. And then we found out about the city, the community partnership grant that the city offers to help support neighborhood associations. Mm-hmm. And so we applied for that and more formalized our neighborhood association from a crime watch group to a neighborhood association. So that's how I got involved, just meeting people, and we had about 12 people that volunteered to be on the board initially, and that was about 6 years ago. And so it's been great.
Wonderful. Johnny, same question for you. Why did you decide to get involved?
Well, I went to the meetings, and I just attended one of the neighborhood meetings. I didn't know it was a nomination meeting. I got nominated by my lovely wife, and here I am. So I really have a servant's heart. And the neighborhood always served and volunteered anyway. I thought it'd be an opportunity to help the community and the city to be more involved.
Wonderful. Verna, same question for you. Why?
We had a sign that the developer had put up at the entrance of our neighborhood almost 30 years ago that was looking very bad. The numbers were broken, some missing. And I decided to start taking up a collection to replace that sign. So I did that, and I was just getting that done when somebody mentioned, well, maybe we should become involved in a neighborhood association. The city helps you with that. So I looked into it and found out that they did, and had a meeting, and that was 3 years ago.
Wow. Okay. Well, let's find out what some of the advantages are to actually having a neighborhood association. Karen, can you answer that for us?
Some of the benefits of being a neighborhood association are, again, the increased sense of community for the residents, the voice of the community to City Hall. There are projects it sponsors through the Community Partnership Grant to help beautify and improve the overall appearances of the neighborhood. There are opportunities to increase the communications through websites, newsletters, and the like. They also attend the quarterly neighborhood roundtable, which board members and officers get information on various city initiatives. They have an opportunity to network amongst each other to find out what is working and other concerns that they share. And then they also will have opportunities to participate in focus groups that are sponsored through the City of Irving.
Wonderful. Well, you know what? That brings us to one of our Facebook questions. I have it written down here, and it's from Sarah K. Dorsey. She wants to know, how do you find out if your neighborhood has a neighborhood association?
If you're not sure if you live in a neighborhood association, there is an interactive map on the city's website. Unless you're really versed in the IT field, best to just give me a call. We'll go to the map and determine if you have a neighborhood association. And if you do, we'll get you connected with that. If you do not, then we can talk about the possibilities of organizing a neighborhood association.
Okay. And Pete, how do you let your people in your neighborhood know that you have the association?
Well, communication is the biggest part of the whole thing, and is Karen pointed out, the sense of community is important. So we actually do four newsletters, quarterly newsletters, and we try to make those as pretty as possible so that it's something that catches people's attention. We do four-page, four-color brochure basically, and has a lot of information in there, lets them know when our meetings are going to be. Generally, we try to target those newsletters around a major event that's going to be coming up so that they have an opportunity and to engage somehow in the activities that we plan for the neighborhood. So that, and we also do an email list as well. So just as many forms of communication as possible, but the hand-delivered newsletters I think are the most effective, because I think people really, that aren't maybe on email or whatever, that they make sure that they get that information. So.
Wonderful. And I see Johnny over there nodding his head going, yeah, is that pretty much the same way you do it too? To
yes,
notify
pretty
people?
much. Like Pete was saying, the newsletters, also notification signs. We put them out throughout the neighborhood, let them know upcoming events, slow down, no trash, holidays, stuff like that. And like Pete was saying, the door-to-door is a more effective way. And we have newsletter about once a quarter, and we call. A lot of a resident in my association where I live is elderly. They don't do the email thing, so we call them, remind them, or put a sign or notice on their door.
I see, makes sense. And Verna, I see you nodding to both of them going, yep, we do that and we do that. Would you like to add anything to that? What do you do?
We also do two, in addition to what they do, we do that, and then we also do 2 socials, one in the spring and then at the holiday time. We do a progressive dinner, which has been very, very successful.
Really successful. That sounds good, and that's coming up pretty soon.
December.
Well, let's say someone finds out there's not an association in their neighborhood. Karen, how do they go about forming one? What do they do?
We have a booklet on the City of Irving's website. It's called Starting a Neighborhood Association. It has a lot of good tips. The first thing you want to do, if you do not have a large group, you really would, like Pete said, investigate starting a neighborhood crime watch program through the Irving Police Department. That's on a smaller scale. The Irving Police Department depends on the eyes and ears of residents to report things that are out of position, things that are not normal, and it is proven to be an effective crime fighting tool. So progressing from the smaller crime watch group into a neighborhood association, you've built that core of the volunteers that are willing to serve as directors. Once you're ready to start the neighborhood association, you would contact me. I'll send a questionnaire. We'll identify your borders, the name of the association. We'll help you set up an informational meeting with the residents in your boundaries. You'll elect officers, and you'll be ready to start your programs and participate in a neighborhood program.
Okay, you make it sound pretty simple.
It is very simple. You just have to give me a call.
There you go. I can tell you were like, okay, call me, we can start one. And Pete, just a little while ago, you mentioned something about grants, and I want Karen to tell us a bit about that too, because one of the benefits of being able to participate in the city's neighborhood grant programs, what they really are, and can you tell us about it for those who aren't aware?
The Community Partnership Grant is a program that provides an opportunity for neighborhood groups to apply for funding to help to revitalize the appearance of their neighborhoods. The grants are awarded in amounts from $250 to $1,500, and they are projects that deal with communication, neighborhood identity, physical improvement, and special events.
Wonderful. And so, Pete, since you mentioned those, how have the grants helped you?
Oh, it's been great. Mainly with the communication process. You know, as I said about our newsletter, we use the lion's share of our grant goes towards communication in the newsletter, because it's costly to print those, and it really helps out with that, and it's very effective, I think. So, and we've also done some neighborhood identification sign toppers. It says Nichols Park Neighborhood Association on the top of the signs on the perimeter streets, so that you know where the boundaries are, so to speak. We have 2 major events a year in our park, and that the funds also help with some of the funding for that. Amongst other things, we participate in the flag caper, the Great American Flag Caper, which is a big Irving event every year, and so it allows us to help with that. Just various things.
Okay.
Year, so.
Same question for you, Johnny. How have grants benefited you?
It's been really going well in our neighborhood. We started a website. and that's very effective. We have a newsletter. We also put the newsletter on the website.
Okay.
And that cut costs when we done that. I noticed when save paper, and we started the website along with the newsletter, so we cut back on how many newsletters we put out. So we found out more people use the website. They can pull it right off the website. Actually get a color copy right off the website. And we'll do that, and also we use it for like events. The city has been so nice to the grant program, give us funds for events like a holiday party. We have a holiday party, been 3 years running since I've been president, been very successful. What we do, we purchase the drink, water and soda. That's usually what it does, and door prizes.
Okay.
And that typically brings people out when they have a door prize.
Yeah.
And
I
we
like that.
also do curb painting, put the letters, numbers on the curbs. So
Okay.
it's very important. Like I said, my neighborhood kind of with the elderly seniors in it.
Sure.
We'll make sure the ambulance and police make sure they get to that address and won't have to pass it up because that's not a number visible from the street.
Wonderful, wonderful. And I'm going to ask you the same question,
Okay.
Verna. So how have grants been beneficial to your association?
Well, we couldn't have the pretty neighborhood we have if it wasn't for the grant money. We had a rather unattractive entrance to our neighborhood due to Pioneer being widened many years ago when they didn't do the wonderful landscaping that they do now. And so it was left with just dirt. And so we had a big old mound there of dirt that, due to the grant money and volunteers, we took all that down and we made a beautiful garden to our entrance that our grant money takes care of that for us. And that's where our time goes, pretty much, is taking care of that garden. And it's a year-round garden. It's very pretty. It's people just love it. We get so many compliments on it, and people ask us, gosh, how did you do that? And I wish we had that. So it has been wonderful addition to our neighborhood, and it's all because of the grant money.
Well, with all this good talk about those grants, I know people are going, well, how do you apply for those, right? So let's ask Karen, what's the process for applying for the grants?
Once you're registered as a neighborhood association, the applications are sent to all the neighborhood associations that we have on our registry. You would simply fill out the forms and turn them in. We have a grant review committee that is made up of staff members from the key departments, code enforcement, building inspection, parks and recreation, and the like. And they look at the various projects. We're looking for projects that are beneficial to the immediate community as well as the city as a whole.
Okay.
We're looking for projects that bring the neighbors together. And I'll mention that in addition to the grant funds, the volunteers and the in-kind donations that are provided far exceed, in most cases, the amount of grant award that the neighborhoods get. So it's a great win-win situation. Once the applications are sent in, and we actually do that twice a year.
Okay.
We have one that goes out in July, and those final reports were just received. The 2012-2013 applications have now been received, and the Grant Review Committee will be looking at that. We'll notify each of the associations of what their awards were by the end of October. They'll proceed with their grants through the year and turn in their reports and receipts. So it's very easy. Basically, just give me a call. We'll get you set up. We'll get you the applications and work with you and provide assistance as needed as we go along.
Good. So you ended with something that's really important. She said it's very easy, because after you just explain that and you tell us about the different people that look at it, it kind of could make people think, is it complicated? But you say it's not.
It's not very complicated. We work every year to try to improve the application form, to reduce the time that it's spent, to reduce the number of pages that is included. So it's a very easy process, and I'm here to walk you right through it step by step. So if anybody's interested, give me a call and we'll go through it.
Good. Now let's talk about the fun stuff, because I know, Johnny, you mentioned the block party, so we're going to go back to that. I know we were at that block party and got to experience it a little bit, ICTN, so how did it go?
Wonderful. Nice turnout. I think we had about 200 show up that day.
Wow.
We done something different this year. We invited the vendors that support our neighborhood through running an ad in our newsletter. That help us have funds to do things in the neighborhood. Actually, they came out and set up and provided opportunity for those who wanted to sign up or do business with them. And we also had the city come out. The city was really good, came out and helped us out, set up a booth. So it really, really turned out really nice. That's the first block party since I've been president. We had picnics. We have a lot of outside events. We try to bring people together through outside events.
Wonderful. And do you plan on making that an annual event then?
Well, I know the holiday party is an annual event, and yes, that's what we're planning on doing the block party also, because we have so great success with it, you know, and something good, you want to stick with it.
Exactly. Pete, speaking of something good, I know you guys have something exciting coming up too, a special event. Tell us about it.
It's our fall festival. It's going to be on the 27th of October, and we do a chili cook-off with that. It's from 3 to 5 on that day, on that Saturday afternoon. And then we also, at the end of it, at 4:30, the last 30 minutes of it, we also invite the kids that are all dressed up in Halloween costumes to do trunk-or-treating. we have this event at the park. Nichols Park is what it is, and it's the 3.3-acre city park and right in the middle of our neighborhood, which is great. And it's a walk-up park. You can drive. I mean, you can park around it, but doesn't have a parking lot. So it's a really nice venue for our events. We have one in the spring and one in the fall. But yeah, the 27th of October, and it's going to be a lot of fun. We serve hot dogs and free hot dogs and drinks and chips and things like that. And again, the trunk-or-treating brings a lot of kids out. We generally have about 200 people that show up for those events in the spring and also in the fall. So
that's a lot of people. That's
a
lot of people, yeah. And so, you know, Johnny mentioned he had about the same, and so that's really successful. So Pete, can you tell me what kind of event or what kind of advice would you offer to people about having such a successful event with their association?
Well, I think it's, you know, again, I'll go back to communication. That's the key, and having a lot of people that are generous with their time and having the funds to do it. And I must say that I got to give Karen some props here, if you will, about how she handles the grants, because she stays on top of everything. It makes it so easy for
I thought you were going to say her chili, because her chili's good too.
Well,
I'm going to give her props on that as well.
She's welcome to come cook some chili. That would be great.
But
we're looking for contestants, anybody that wants to come.
There you go. So she's good at chili and the grants. So
Exactly.
she makes it very helpful.
But she makes it so easy, and she interacts with the vendors. So you don't necessarily even have to set up a bank account, because she'll pay the vendors directly with the funds that you have. So it's you're just reiterating that it's very simple process. But yeah, it's just the events are fun. Again, it promotes that sense of community, gets everybody to know each other. You know, when you're driving down the street, you see people a lot of times coming and going from their properties, and you don't get a chance to stop and talk to them. But this gives you a chance to put a name to a face.
Johnny, would you like to add to that? What would you say makes your event so successful? What would you recommend others do?
I recommend have a wonderful board of directors like we have. Without those volunteers, it's not possible. Working together, we have a very diverse neighborhood. We have a diverse board also, so meet the needs of everyone. I forgot to mention, when we put out the notification, the communication, we do it in Spanish and also English. So we invite everyone. And it's just get to know your neighbors, build a rapport with them. My wife and I, we walk through the neighborhood, you know, just checking it out, part of the crime watch, and make sure everything okay. See neighbors, wave at them. You know, the old town feel.
Right.
Everybody knew everybody. So I grew up in the country, so I'm used to it. So we go around, we meet the neighbors, and most of them pretty much know who I am. And I try to let them know who I am and what our purpose is for that neighborhood.
Wonderful. And Verna, this question's for you. I know you're also a realtor.
Yes.
So do you think having a property association in your neighborhood increases the value of it?
I think it makes it, eventually it'll increase value. We're not to that point yet, just because of the market that we've been in for several years now. But I do think it makes a more desirable place people want to live in. We had 3 houses go up for sale in our little neighborhood this summer. And it's the first time we've had 3 houses for sale in probably 8 years. Wow. Maybe we'll have 1 every 2 years. But we had 3 come up this summer, and they sold. The first one was like in 11 days, the next one was 9 days, and the other one was 18 days.
Wow.
So that's a real good sign. These were all people that wanted to be in the neighborhood. They had heard about the neighborhood from somebody from church or family, and they just wanted to be in the neighborhood. So that invariably will increase property values.
It's a good problem to have, to be loved that much, huh?
Yeah, it really was. It was wonderful. We've worked hard to get there, and I think we're going to get higher prices eventually.
Wonderful. And Pete, this next question's for you. I know you also keep in touch with people at City Hall, and has this really paid off with the renovations of that neighborhood park? I think so. Tell me about that.
And the events that we have at that park 2 times a year have helped, because we often invite city officials to the events, and they come, and especially the city council people and some of the staff. And one Saturday afternoon, I was talking to one of the city council members, and they said, we need to do something with this park. And so she was able to facilitate some grant money, and the architects and the Parks and Recs people came to us for some input. Again, it's a very unique park. A little history on it. It was donated. The land was actually donated by the developer of our neighborhood. One of the developers of our neighborhood, Bob Nichols was his name, and it was back in the late 50s. And so we got some of the history of that, and we're actually able to contact the family, and had some of the family. Bob Nichols passed away a couple of years ago, but his sons and daughters came to our event. And when we rededicated the park after it was finished, again, the park was improved with some grant money, with some bond money, actually, not the Neighborhood Grant Association, the partnership grant. So I want to clarify that. But it was the fact that we brought attention to the park by having people there, and the fact that it's being used a lot, I think was kind of helped, instigate those improvements. But it was really, when we rededicated the park, we had the city council there, and also the sons and daughters of the original developer, and they were very emotional about the whole thing, because there's a marker that's dedicated to Bob Nichols at that park too, and it's just. It was a really nice thing. So.
It sounds like it. And it sounds like the association provides you a good avenue to create dialogue with the city.
Exactly.
So?
And we've got there's a lot of infrastructure things going on in our neighborhood as well, with the 183 and O'Connor projects and such. So we've been able to provide some input on that, and communicating through the neighborhood association is a good avenue, good way to do that.
I'd like to chime in on that.
Sure.
Because again, having a neighborhood association helps the neighbors bring a voice to city about a common issue or concern that may be affecting their community. So if you have an area that is a common area, by bringing that information to us here through the neighborhood program, we can get that to the people that can make some differences and some improvements, such as the bond funds for the Nichols Park. So it's all in all a very productive way to keep our neighborhoods clean, safe, and appearances better.
Which is definitely a good thing. And Karen, I want to ask you about this too. One of the resources to help associations is called Neighborhood Roundtable. Tell me about that.
The quarterly Neighborhood Roundtable is open to all of the board members and neighborhood association officers.
Okay.
It's held, again, quarterly, and we have approximately 70 neighborhood officers and board members that attend. We provide presentations on various city initiatives.
Okay.
They have an opportunity to share stories about successful neighborhood projects, some of the pitfalls of some of the other projects that they may have had, just an opportunity to share information amongst other neighborhood groups.
And what are some of the topics covered?
We cover a majority of topics from Heritage Crossing. We've had code enforcement presentations. We do budget presentations. DART came out just before the Orange Line opened up, did a presentation with the neighborhood officers about all of the infrastructure that they're building. We have various, just depending on, for example, Solid Waste Services had the pilot program. We had Solid Waste Services, Brenda Haney, come out and explain the program, because there's a lot of questions. So when there is a new initiative, the neighborhood officers often get that first, and that's a good way for us to share that and get the correct information out to the public, rather than just rumor mill sometimes.
Okay. And Johnny, I know that your association helped out a homeowner in need recently. Tell me about that.
That was really great. We came together, the neighborhood came together. By knowing the neighbors, we know the needs. So this neighbor in particular had a rough time, had a single mother. So I got together with the neighborhood and the officers, and they all pitched in to help. And we had like various vendors donate food, paint, and the grant helped us also with some of the funding of the material costs, and that really gave a big lift to that resident, and everyone was glad to do it. And the council member came out, and ICTN came out and videoed it. It's on our website, also on ICTN. We like to record the events so we can have it for record. And so it was a really nice event. The first Saturday we planned to do it, rain poured down. And after it stopped raining, they were so excited. They came out the rain. Johnny, we're gonna paint. You know,
They still wanted to do it.
Kind of wet now, so we planned for the next Saturday just as big. It was really excited about doing that.
Wonderful. And you've all really talked about the importance of getting to know your neighbors. Verna, how important is it to know your neighbors and to watch out for each other?
Very important, and that's probably one of the biggest benefits of neighborhood association. You just get to know everybody. A lot of our neighbors didn't know their neighbor's name before we had the association, and now with the communication and the board staying in contact pretty regularly with all the neighbors, they all know each other, and they look out when somebody's going out of town. They let everybody know, and they watch their homes, and it's great. We would not have that if we didn't have a neighborhood association.
Wow.
People are busy.
Yeah.
They make the time for this.
Definitely sounds like it. And Johnny, how has your involvement in the association helped you get to know your neighbors and watch out for things that may be out of place? Like Verna was saying, it's really important to get to know what's going on.
It's very important. When I know what's going on in the neighborhood, I know who belong there and who don't, and they share information with me they won't share with other folks. Like I keep stating before, we have an aging neighborhood, which won our Christmas dinner. We honored them. Those residents lived in the neighborhood 30, 40, 50 plus years.
Wow.
So we had to look out for them.
Definitely.
And they put their trust in me, and the board members and volunteers that work in the neighborhood. Very important to have a neighborhood association, very close-knit, bring closeness and cohesiveness among the neighborhood.
Definitely sounds like it. And we're just about out of time, but I want to ask you this in closing, Pete, and that is, what's your goal for the future with your association? What are your plans?
Well, to continue to stay open to as many, get more active members and more activities, and even have a little bit more involvement with people. Because the bottom line is, the biggest benefit, I think, to having a neighborhood association is just the fun of it. You know, it's just really a lot of fun to get to know people, as Vera said, and Johnny, you know, being able to serve people and things like that. It's just a lot of fun. So I think just more involvement with people. That's our biggest goal.
And it seems like y'all are achieving it. You guys are all doing such a wonderful job. Just hearing you talk about your neighborhood associations, I'm sure, is motivating others to want to be involved with theirs as well. Well, I want to thank you all for spending your time with us and giving us this information about your neighborhood associations, and Karen for telling us how you can actually start one if you don't have one. So we've got Karen Ducote and Pete Miller and Johnny Jackson and Verna Wilson. Thank you all for being here with us.
Thanks, Darlene.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. And thank you for watching. I'm Starlene Stringer. Please be sure to join us for our next edition of Open Line, live at 1:30 p.m. on Thursday, November 7th. Our guest will be from the Municipal Court, and if you have questions, you can email them to ictn@cityofirving.org or connect with us on Facebook, and we'll get answers on our next edition of Open Line. We'll see you then.